Stampers, this is Marie Bennett with episode 5 of the Tools of the Trade series, and this episode is all about a machine called the Big Shot. The Big Shot is an embossing and cutting tool that lets us make paper more interesting by creating designs in the paper. When you get your Big Shot, you'll get this machine, this multi-purpose platform, and these two embossing plates, I guess. I know they have a name. I can't remember what it is. I'm going to call them embossing plates. And depending on what you're trying to do with the paper, you will use either tab 2, tab 1, or you will take away all of the tabs and just use the plain platform. So the Big Shot comes with the machine, the multi-purpose platform, and 2 plates for embossing. You will need to have or purchase the embossing folders. Embossing folders are the folders that let us put designs in paper. And if you look at this one, you can see that this one has hearts. So if I put paper in here and ran it through the Big Shot, my paper would have the design of hearts, just as you see it on this folder. So what it does, it really just squeezes a design into the paper, and there you can see the hearts. And so I'm going to just show you how this happens. This multi-purpose platform works with a variety of tools, and each of these tools has a different thickness. So in order to get the machine to work right, you need to adjust the thickness of the platform to suit your purpose. When you emboss, which is what we're doing with these embossing folders that look like this, you use the basic platform without the tabs. So what you do is you use the platform, you put down one plate, embossing plate here, and they're calling this make a sandwich. So we put down the first layer, and then we put some paper in our folder, and I want the hearts to be raised up on my paper. So in order to do that, I have to have the Stampin' Up! Label on the top side of the paper. So I'm going to line the paper up in this folder like that. Then I put it on top of the first layer of my sandwich, and this becomes the center of the sandwich. And I put the second plate on top of that, and now my sandwich is complete. And I just lay it on the Big Shot like this, and then just crank the handle, and it rolls right through the Big Shot. And then when I open it up, my paper has hearts pressed into it. And the little edges of the hearts are raised up toward the top of the paper. Now if I put the paper in so that this bottom layer was on the top side of the paper, then the grooves of the hearts would go down. I can just turn the paper over to show you what that would look like. So really the way it's done here, because this is just a piece of paper that I can use on top of a card, I can use either side of the paper. Just depends on what look I'm trying to achieve. So that's how embossing folders work. And there are lots of embossing folders available. You will have several in your collection. You can get them at Joann's or most craft stores. You can order them from Stampin' Up!, which is the company that the school district is purchasing materials from for you to use for this card making project. So this, when I put this through the Big Shot, I'm going to get a piece of paper with big blue or big dots on it, great big polka dots. Now I can just pull this back through, and I put this down, put the top layer of my sandwich on because the bottom layer was still there from before, and crank it through. No electricity required. Very easy to crank. Anybody can do it, any age, I think. And that is what my paper looks like now. If you wanted to have little scattered polka dot effect, there's folders for that. Here's one that has little triangles that look like Christmas trees. Maybe if I hold this paper under here you can see it better. Christmas trees. Here's one for stars, stripes, and I think that's all I have out. Now if you're going to cut something out with metal dies, then you'll want to use your magnetic platform, not the multi-purpose platform that the Big Shot came with, but the magnetic platform that is a separate purchase. And when you use dies, they cut paper, but they also cut the plastic. And so you'll want to have your two cutting plates set aside just for cutting, and don't use these for embossing. They get all messy looking. It doesn't hurt them, it doesn't hurt the way they work. But if you use these for embossing and you had paper down on there, it would emboss all of this ugly mess into the paper. So only use your cutting plates for cutting, and you can use them for a long time. This does not, the way they look doesn't affect the way they work. So just because they look yucky, don't throw it away and think you need new plates. You can use them until they almost break. And you can see I've used this enough that it's kind of developing a little bend. Maybe you can't see. It kind of sags in the middle right there. But when it gets too saggy, I just turn it over and run it through the other way, and then it flattens out. So you just keep doing that until it really truly does wear out. But this is not worn out, it's just not pretty. Alright. What you use with the magnetic platform are called dies. So we have framelets, thinlets. And this is a framelit. And when you get your framelets and thinlets, they will come in a package that looks like this. So you just open it up, and then you'll see that it comes in a folder, little envelope for keeping it tidy. And you can keep this protected in this envelope, just in a like a plastic bin or something. I'll show you what I use. I use this art bin. That's the brand, Art Bin, and inside of it are magnetic, I don't know what they're called, magnetic pages I'm going to call them. And so these metal dies stick right to that, and all of these dies are part of a set, and so I keep them together on the same page. And as you get a collection of metal dies built up, you're going to want to have a way to keep them organized. So either keep them in the original package they came in, or find a way to store them in a plastic bin with some magnetic pages. Another thing I've done with some of my dies, because some of them just go with one stamp set. So this stamp set, which is called Holiday Home, came, or didn't come with, I had to buy these extra, but has 3 dies that cut out the houses in the stamp set. Well, right now these dies only go with the stamp set. So I stuck a magnet on the case, on the inside of the stamp case, and I store them right with the stamps that they go with. And then the same thing with this Fall Fest stamp set. I bought the dies that came with it for cutting out the pumpkins and the leaves, and I just store them right in the case with the stamps. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how these work. It's the same basic principle. You're going to make a sandwich. This magnetic platform has very strong magnets in it, and so you're going to put your paper on top of that first layer as you're building your sandwich. So here's the bottom layer. The middle layer is the paper and the die. I'm going to make I think I'll make a tag. So I'm going to cut a tag out, and I just put it on here, and now you can see that die's going nowhere because the magnet is holding it in place. I can turn it all the way over, and that magnet's right where I put it. I mean, the die is right where I put it because of the strength of the magnet. Okay, so I take my other layer of the sandwich, I put it on top, and then I'm just going to crank it right through the Big Shot. Like that. Very simple to do. When it gets all the way through, I take off my top plate and pull off the, I forgot this tag has a little cutout thing there. Alright, and now my die, this middle piece here, has cut out this shape for me. It's important when you're using these metal dies that you put the side of the die that has the groove. Right here there's like it's really a cutting blade is what it is. It's not so sharp that it's going to cut your fingers, but it is sharp enough that when it's pressed hard through the Big Shot, it will cut paper. But you have to have the cutting side down and the flat side up. Otherwise you're only going to cut your plate. You're not going to cut your paper. Okay, we also have some dies that are called embosslets. And they're called embosslets because not only do they cut out the basic design, but they emboss it while it's cutting. And when you emboss something, remember that means you're pressing a design into the paper. So they work exactly the same way. You put the embosslet on the basic first layer, put the paper down, the embosslet down the top layer, and then you crank it through the Big Shot. And then when you pull it off, sometimes the shape you're cutting stays in the embosslet frame. But if you look, there are holes here where you can loosen it. You just need a little, it's called a paper piercing tool. Looks like this, comes in a tube. It's pretty sharp, so it comes with a rubber cover over the tip. Pull that rubber cover off, and then gently you just kind of poke it through those holes to loosen the paper from the embosslet frame. Another thing you can do, and this works really well, I just didn't do it this time, you can put a layer of waxed paper over the top of the paper you're cutting, and then the wax paper will keep this paper from sticking in the embosslet. Sometimes if you do it the way I'm doing it, you can tear the paper, so the wax paper is a really good idea. But now if you look at it, hopefully I can get that to show up, you can see that this picture frame, that's what this is, has a design embossed into the paper. So it cut it and embossed it at the same time. It's called an embosslet. Okay, so that's the Big Shot. You use the multi-purpose platform that comes with the Big Shot to emboss, and this platform needs its own set of plates. And when you emboss, you press a pattern into the paper. And the magnetic platform, which came separate from the Big Shot, holds the metal dies in place, and you use that to cut and emboss at the same time. And this also needs its own designated set of plates, so that you're not going to be embossing things into your paper with the other platform that you don't want to be there. Okay, that's it for the Big Shot. See you next time. Episode 6 is about a little machine called the Embossing Boutique.